Hey, this is Tiffin. Happy Wednesday. We are officially in Gemini season. The sun moved into Gemini on Monday, and the rest of the sky is building towards the full moon, which takes place tomorrow morning about 8:53 in the morning Pacific time in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the opposite sign to Gemini. So, excuse me, we've got this really uh, new energy with the sun in the air sign of Gemini. Gemini is a mutable sign, so it's the last season of spring. It'll end at the solstice, the summer solstice, when the sun moves into Cancer. And it's a time of fluidity and flexibility, of mental agility. Sign of Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And so this is a month or a theme of energy where the sun is spotlighting or highlighting the part of our chart that holds Gemini. And it's bringing into our awareness this sort of quick thinking, um, curiosity, and investigation, like wanting to think about, explore, read, talk about, experience a lot of different things. Um, the symbol for Gemini is the twins. And it's often talked about as like a dual sign, one of the signs in the zodiac that's a duality, like Pisces and Libra are the other two. Uh, but I think that thinking of Gemini as a duality is limiting because Gemini is about multiple perspectives, multiple experiences, lots of gathering of information, data, experience, points of view. And so I invite you this month to get more curious in your life. Have more conversations, different conversations. Um, Speak to people out in public who you don't know. Be curious about what might open up by initiating a little contact and sharing some ideas. And that might not be your thing. So it might be exploring different sources on the internet, Googling questions that come to mind, um, reading different posts in Substack or wherever you find new and different ideas, watching different videos, listening to different podcasts. All of these things are ways of engaging curiosity, but also being curious about yourself. Uh, Gemini question is what's new? What's here now? Very in the present, very responsive and agile in moving and shifting. And so I know many of you who let me know that you listen to these things are self-curious, are wanting to learn and grow and understand um, more about yourself and your life and the world around you. And that's how we learn, is by gathering new experiences, exposing ourselves to new ideas, new perspectives, and new experiences. And so this Gemini to Sagittarius axis for this full moon, Gemini is all about the gathering of the information, data, experience. And Sagittarius is that big picture. It's like zoomed out from that and making meaning of it all. Sagittarius connects with our knowledge. And so making meaning from the experience or the idea, then what does it mean? Sagittarius asks, what does it mean? And what do I believe about that? And so Sagittarius is often connected with a worldview, with having experiences or learning and knowledge that comes from, further out perspectives, not just your little corner of the world, but what's a broader perspective, broader perspective. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the mind and communication. And Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion and opportunity and abundance, of like, what's that big picture? So you can be curious about how is it that you go about making meaning in your life? And what is it that you believe from that? Now, in this full moon, so sun in Gemini, opposite moon in Sagittarius, right next to the sun in Gemini, because the sun's at only 2 degrees of Gemini, right next at 29 degrees Taurus is both Jupiter and Venus at the very last degree of Taurus. So we've been in, Taurus has had a lot of planets, and it's just now starting to spread as the sun, and then Jupiter and Venus will move into Gemini also. But this full moon is really like an emotional reflection. That's what a full moon is. It's fully reflecting the light of the sun. But this time, it's also fully reflecting the energies of Jupiter and Venus together in Taurus. And that really points me to it's my embodied experience of my values, of what's important to me. How have I grown during this year of Jupiter and Taurus? How have I come to appreciate my lived experience, what I have as my internal resources and values, what I have created and cultivated in my life? And I'm saying the last year because Jupiter spends about a year in each sign. And so this movement of first Venus moving into Gemini the same day as the full moon. So the full moon's at 8:53 in the morning Pacific time, and Venus moves into Gemini at 1:30 in the afternoon. Jupiter and Venus have their exact meetup at 1:30 in the morning. So there's a lot of connecting and movements happening at that end of Taurus, beginning of Gemini. So with Venus moving into Gemini the same day as this full moon, sort of like that's going to be a shift to what we are attracted to, what we are finding pleasure in. Venus through Taurus in her own sign, very much about what's the value, what are the qualities in my life, what are the experiences that feel good, that are, we can touch and taste and hear and savor. What's the beauty in my life? And with Venus moving into Gemini, sort of the shift in value and appreciation to experience, to conversation, to learning, to gathering new experiences. I think Venus in Gemini is like a love of variety and a love of agility and shifting and like, oh, I want to enjoy a lot of things while Venus is in Gemini. No matter where Venus is in your chart, we can work with or partner with planet Venus in Gemini to, kind of try things out. It's a very experimental energy and a very, think of it as a flirtatious energy, like, oh, just kind of over here, or say hi over here, or say hi over here. There's a lot of that, a nimbleness of pleasure, of what variety is bringing in your life. And so Venus in Gemini is a good time to experiment with that and like try new things, mix it up. Can be as simple as, when you're in the produce department or at the farmer's market, like what are some fruits or veggies that you either haven't had in a while or you've never tasted or tried? Again, back to thinking of media and language and whether that's listening or watching or reading. What are other sources? How can you, test things out? Maybe it's sharing book titles with friends. I know I've been getting some good reading recommendations lately, which I love. And which, if you have some favorite book or favorite something you've read or watched lately, let us know. Put it in the comments. Let's share these good resources. Sharing the experiences. Now, I know this time of year, late May, coming up on Memorial Day weekend in the US, and a lot of graduations are starting to happen, end of school year activities, and lots of events. And that fits with Gemini of like wanting to be in our local environment, interacting with more people. There's a celebratory energy with the Sun and Venus in Gemini. And then Saturday with Jupiter moving into Gemini, expanding that even more. Now, Jupiter will be in Gemini for about a year to 13 months. And so this whole next year, we get to learn and grow and expand our thinking, our minds, our perspectives. I'm feeling it as really transforming our minds. As the planets all move into the beginning of Gemini, they're meeting up in that cooperative, free-flowing energy with planet Pluto over in Aquarius. And Pluto's that planet of deep transformation in the sign of Aquarius, which is like the collective networking or the paradigms, the mental paradigms that we have around the collective and our spot, our places in the collective. And so Jupiter trine Pluto, I think, is a real opportunity or an invitation from the universe for us to consider and grow in how do we view the world and life and ourselves and our lives, and what Pluto is about, peeling away the parts that aren't functional anymore, peeling away and letting go of the old paradigms. I think you can probably think of, at least on the world stage, where those things are happening or where those questions are really up. Like, should we continue doing things as we have, or is it time to really let go of some of those old paradigms, old beliefs, old ways of doing or communicating, and innovate and bring in something that will be better for the collective? I don't have those answers. I don't probably think you do either, but you can probably see that the questions around governance and all kinds of issues, moral, ethical, financial, political, environmental, spiritual, uh, civil rights, all these questions are definitely up all around the world. And Pluto in Aquarius is going to be shifting our thinking over the next 20 years and shifting the ways things are all interconnected, and with the intention behind it for our growth and evolution, our transformation. So the sun highlighting over to Pluto, and then Jupiter highlighting and Venus highlighting, really emphasizing and making big opportunities for us individually and collectively of how we think about and communicate these things that are important to us. With Venus in there, it connects us to our values and the goodness and the opportunities, Venus and Jupiter together. So this, Monday, when the sun moved into Gemini, I really felt it like a breath of fresh air. I also got my hair cut on Monday, so it was sort of like, oh, light, and I feel better already. And then I noticed, so when the sun moved into Gemini, the moon was still in Libra. Then the moon moved into Scorpio. Now, moon in Scorpio tends to be a deep, intense, emotional feeling tone. Moon sign, wherever the moon is transiting, gives us sort of like the emotional weather or the mood of the day. And the moon has been moving in Scorpio, which is opposite to Taurus energy in the chart. So the moon was opposite to Mercury, and now it's coming into opposition with Venus and Jupiter. And so you might be experiencing that Taurus energy from a deeper place of questioning the light and the shadow. Scorpio invites us into the shadows and the depth. And in my experience, it doesn't feel as good. It's not as pleasant a feeling, but it does feel true to me. And by feeling into the full range of emotions, that Scorpio really asks us to like embrace our full range of emotion and be willing to go to the hard places and be willing to go to the high highs too, where we might be just as uncomfortable. And I think that's kind of what feeling into, like, did a lot of writing this morning in my journal, and exploring like some of my dreams of what's new and curiosity and like what questions I want to be asking myself over this next month. And the moon in Scorpio is kind of revealing some things to me, and some of that wasn't comfortable. Whereas the Taurus energy has been kind of all about what's comfortable, what feels good, what reflects my values, what am I cultivating and nourishing in my life? So Mercury will still be in Taurus after Venus and Jupiter move on. And then Mars will join Taurus a little bit later. I'll let you know when that happens. So the moon moving into Sagittarius early morning this morning, tomorrow morning, and then full at 8:53. Sagittarius moon tends to be, fire sign, more intuitive, more inspired. Sagittarius tends to be big, optimistic feeling, and with a full moon fully illuminating what's there and what's there that we don't usually feel, that we don't usually see, which is true for every full moon. It has the moon reflecting from that archetype the light of the sun in the opposite. And so be curious about what beliefs or meaning you make of the Gemini energy in yourself. I know I have a kind of complex feeling around Gemini energy of I think it's light and fun, but I also judge it as being flaky and superficial. And I want to be more curious about what that means to me and why it kind of has that energy. And you might be curious about that too. And again, these full moons and new moons and any of these aspects in the current astrology touch each of us uniquely based on our own charts. And so I know I've shared this before about like, oh, I expect Gemini moon to feel really light and fun, and it doesn't to me. I have kind of a similar expectation about the Jupiter ruled Sagittarius moon, expansive, meaningful, wise, and it doesn't always hit me that way. And because in my chart, and this full moon is going to be really personal to my chart, I have Saturn sitting at 90 degrees to the sun and the moon, and then my Saturn's here in Pisces at 2 degrees. So my Saturn energy, which pulls the energy in, says, get serious, Saturn. And Pisces Saturn says, surrender and release. So non-attachment to things is challenging to the Sagittarius that wants to have a belief you can really hold on to and wants to feel big and expansive, but the Saturn energy says, blinders on, focus here. And so I'm going to bring in that Gemini energy of curiosity around what does that feel like to me actually when the sun and moon are 90 degrees perpendicular to my Saturn. Those of you who were born like 58 to 70, roughly, have Pluto in Virgo. Big chunk of that also has Uranus and Pluto in Virgo. And so this May, if you have early degree Uranus or early degree Pluto, born on the late 50s, early 60s, you probably really feel this full moon squaring your Virgo planets. So our personal charts really impact how we experience transits. And talking with people, sharing about astrology, I can really feel that with Taurus, that value, like, what do I have? Like, what are my resources? And knowing your chart is a way of knowing what your unique strengths are, what your unique resource. I lean into that Saturn and Pisces. It's a support to me for my spiritual life, for finding more compassion and love and feeling connected to the all that is. I lean into my Leo sun and moon of knowing, right, come from my heart, be authentic and real. That is part of that Leo energy. And that's a strength that I have. And shining that on for others to value and see who they truly are and authentically. And in my work as a coach and an astrologer, helping people know who they are through their chart is a way of supporting that Taurus part of them in their values and their inner resources. And then as we're really highlighting the Gemini energy, if you have any curiosity about how could astrology feel like a support to you, or how can it be a tool for greater self-awareness and self-understanding? Jet's here with me. You see him walk behind me. If that curiosity is sparked for you, and if you feel that having a astrology chart reading, an update to your current transits of how is all this Gemini going to affect you personally, and how can you make the most of it by partnering creatively with that energy in your life and what's happening for you, please get in touch. I do have space in my schedule for new clients or for returning astrology clients to have updated readings. And even have a couple places for ongoing astro coaching clients where we would meet 2 to 3 times a month, your preference, and explore deeply things in your life, your growth edges, and help you come into a more intimate understanding of your own astrological chart and your being, and really, coming to love and appreciate your strengths and have compassion and understanding for the natural wounds or insecurities or challenges that are in your chart and in your life. So please get in touch. I also, for my broader community, those of you on my newsletter, those of you subscribe to YouTube, it's been a while since I've had a community conversation. And so I have been doing twice a month around the lunar cycle in Patreon, this small intimate Patreon group where we explore astrology and tarot together, stars and cards, and invite you to check that out. I'll put the link in the show notes in the YouTube description. But I want to host another conversation with the cosmos. And this is free, a Zoom hour. We'll meet next Wednesday evening, May 29th at 5:30 Pacific. And I hope you can come and join me. I know each time I do those, it's really great to see past clients and people who are intrigued by astrology and maybe want to meet me and see if there's, fit. Come, we'll talk about this Gemini energy. We'll look ahead a little bit and get curious together about how we can partner with the planets, how we can co-create with this cosmic energy and enjoy each other and be a little curious and perhaps meet new friends. All right, hope you can join me for that. And if you're interested in the Patreon community, check that out. Our next call for that will be June 9th, Sunday, June 9th at 10 a.m. Okay, have a wonderful day and happy full moon in Sagittarius. And if you love this, if you've, please subscribe to the channel, please hit like, please comment. That all helps me. It's a small channel at this point, but I'd like to reach more people. And if you find it valuable, you can share it with someone. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks so much. And again, happy full moon.